I'm going to be sharing with you in this video how to find peace regardless of what's happening in your life. How to find peace in any moment regardless of what's happening. Because here's the truth. Whether we agree or disagree or think that this is I agree with you, Francis, or I disagree with you. No. There's no agreements here. Life is going to throw challenges at you. That's just what it is. Whether we want to fight it or play victim or disagree and have a position around this, life is going to have challenges. Now, I'm just telling you the truth, not from a space of, saying things to make you feel bad, but actually I'm going to give you a solution and empower you to realize that even though that is true, there is a way to ground yourself throughout those challenges. So I'm going to share with you in this video how to find peace in any moment regardless of what's happening. And that might be confusing to some people because wait, that doesn't make sense. Some moments are going to be hard, but I'm going to redefine what peace actually is as a whole, because peace doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to feel the best. And that might be confusing, but we're going to redefine what peace is in this video. We're going to help you to stay grounded regardless of the situation that you're in, your circumstances, and what's happening to you. I'm going to reframe that right now. What's happening for you. And we're going to share with you in this video how to stay grounded in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of challenges, to stay connected to the strength of who you truly are. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. How to find peace regardless, how to find peace in any moment regardless of what's happening in your life. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell because I do post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation to see if you're a good fit for the coaching program. So what's the first step to this process? Well, I want to ask you a question to start off. This is going to go super spiritual, but you got to realize that life is always changing. Well, actually, first of all, before we go into that, let's redefine peace. Let's redefine peace right off the bat. Peace is something that can always be there in the background of what's happening in your life. You might be going through challenges, but the question is, how much can you accept that you're going through that challenge? And the way that we're going to use the word peace in this video is under the premise that peace is not with the implication that you were always going to feel at your best. Now, peace, in the way that I'm using it in this video, again, peace is not some objective word in the world that I'm defining. We are subjectively using words in this reality. And personally, the way that I use peace, and the way we're going to use it in this video for teaching purposes, so to speak, so that I can communicate this message to you, is not with the premise that peace is to feel good. Because feeling good all the time, 24/7, yeah, you can get to that a majority of the time, but I promise that sometimes you won't always feel good. Maybe I'm in a limitation. Okay, well, maybe, but it's still where I'm at in my life. I feel good most of the times. A majority of the time, I say that I'm at a high vibration state, because your natural state of being is to be at a high vibration state. But the way that I see it, occasionally there's going to be times you don't necessarily feel good. But that doesn't have to mean that you're not going to be peaceful. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So just to redefine peace, understand that the word peace does not mean that you're always going to feel good. It doesn't mean that you're going to be completely feeling blissed out. What it does mean, though, is that you'll be more connected to a state of non-resistance regardless of what you feel. And this is the key, because the more that you can realize that what you feel does not have to define your peace, That's what's going to help you to get to the next level. But that might be confusing. We'll get to that in just a little bit though. So the first thing that I want you to understand though, with that premise being understood, with the premise, like we're going to move forward in this video, understanding the premise of the way I use the word peace is not with the implication that you're always going to feel good, but it's a non-resistance to what is. Now that we have that out of the way, that definition out of the way, to understand the premise of what I mean when I say peace, I'm going to start off with a question. Your life has always been changing since the day you were conscious, since the day you were born, so to speak. We'll get to later in this video or another video why I said born that way. But again, I mean, you were born, but to some degree, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that later. So everything in your life has always been changing. You've had your thoughts change, your emotions have changed, your body has been changing. Everything in your goddamn life has always been in a consistent state of change. Everything in your life has always been in a consistent state. I mean, not so consistent because sometimes it's inconsistent, but always changing. Always changing. Your thoughts change, your emotions change, your body changes, the people around you change, your career changes, like look at, if you zoom into this hand right now, this hand is changing. It's always like this body that I have right now is not the same cells of this body that I had 10 years ago or when I was a baby. It's a whole new body. Science actually proves that. Science proves that your cells are always changing. You're morphing and shifting and transforming, and the carbon dioxide is flowing out of your lungs, and then everything's always, and then as this is changing, you're always changing. And even in your experience, don't think about this logically. Think back to the very first moment you were conscious, the first memory you can think of. Everything has always been changing. But what if, let me ask you this, is there something in your life, something, it's not quite a thing, that has never changed? Again, we'll get to that later why I say it's not a thing. Is there any quote-unquote thing or some quote-unquote thing you can pinpoint that has never changed? Has never changed? The answer is, of course, your consciousness. Your consciousness. Your consciousness has never changed. The sense, not a sense, but the awareness of I-ness, of I am here in this moment right now, that has never changed. Never, 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 never. It's the changeless within you. It's never changed. It's always been there in the quote unquote background. I don't want to see, background is not quite the right word, but it's like, regardless of all these changing external phenomena, thoughts, feelings, emotions, your body, everything's changing, there's a changelessness behind it all, so to speak. And that's your true nature. And that changelessness is where your peace lies. That's your peace. Your peace is not in the external world. Your peace is not in your thoughts. It's not even in your emotional state. It's by being aware of who you, quote unquote, truly are. So I want you to really contemplate that question. What has never changed? Seriously. Because that insight will instantly give you more peace. You'll be like, wow, no matter what bullshit in my life comes my way, quote unquote, my life, like you own it, you don't own your life. No matter what comes your way, there's something that you never lose. And it's that awareness of who you truly are. You're never gonna lose that. Nobody can take that from you. It's just always there. You can't lose it. You can forget it, but then you remind yourself and remember that you are that. That is what you are. So understand that peace is not a state. It's being aware of who you truly are and accepting that forms always change. Forms are always changing. This is changing, that's changing, your thought, like dude, like, are you aware that your body is gonna grow old and die? It is going to grow old and die. I hate to say it, I'm sorry, surprise, what you attach to now will not last forever. But that doesn't have to be disempowering. The ego hates that. The ego is like, oh my God, that's the scariest thing I've ever heard. But then when you know your true nature, it's like, oh my God, that can give you so much peace, because you're realizing, oh my God, to deny that external form is changing is to deny your peace. It's to deny the beauty of this moment. The reason life is so beautiful is because it's not permanent. There's the impermanence of life. But when you connect to that part of you that is permanent, so to speak, changeless, that is aware of the changing, what you start to realize is that's where your peace is. The more that you can connect to that space, your frequency will increase. Your overall emotional state will, over time, not right away, it could happen right away though, instantaneously, change over time. You'll start to feel better. Now, you don't want to depend on that though, because the thing is, the way you get to a higher vibrational state of consciousness is to accept that you're going to feel shit sometimes. You're going to feel low sometimes. The challenges are going to come your way. And the more that you can accept what is now, that you don't have to be in resistance to what is happening now, the more that you are going to raise your frequency. And the more that you can step into that space of realizing that your peace is not an emotional state, but it's to be connected to that unchanging formlessness that you are, that instantly transmutes all resistance into acceptance. Because from that space of awareness, you can start to realize that you can have a non-resistance to what is. It automatically starts to come up to the surface. Because consciousness, almost instantly, if you're conscious in that moment, will make you realize that you're causing suffering to yourself. So look, you don't have a choice other than to accept, because the only reason we cause pain to ourselves and resist what is because we believe that we are the limitations. So when you become aware of the formlessness that you are, you have almost no choice but to surrender. Because what's the goddamn alternative? To cause suffering for yourself and pretend that you're not gonna change and grow old? No, it's going to happen anyways. Life is gonna carry forward regardless of if you agree with it or have resistance to it or not. Doesn't matter if you disagree, you're going to move forward. Your life is going to change regardless of if you agree with me or not. So the question is, are you going to be in resistance to that or accept that? And the more that you can realize that you are not all these changing forms, the quicker you'll get to acceptance. That's the truth. The truth is that you're going to grow old. You are going to die one day. You are going to realize that things are always changing. Maybe you won't realize that, but things are going to change whether you realize it or not, whether you agree with it or not. But when you sense or become aware of that formlessness of, you don't really sense it, but you become aware of it and realize it, because it's not a sense, it's beyond even senses. What you'll start to realize, but it's kind of a sense. A sense is one way to use the word, but it's not quite a sense, because that disregards the fact that it's literally formless. It's consciousness itself observing the sense. It's consciousness going inward on itself. Mind blowing. I know. But here's the thing though. It's not the situation, it's your resistance to it. But the more that you can feel that formlessness that you are, that consciousness will make you realize instantly that the only thing causing suffering is your own thoughts. And from that awareness, you'll be able to find peace in any moment. You got to realize that when you're in your life, I want you to start to notice how often you're talking down and projecting stories onto the situation. Like, oh, this is happening to me. This is bad, victim, everything's out to get me, oh, I'm falling into victim. Yeah, all of that is creating suffering. I know this is one of the hardest truths for me to communicate. This is one of the hardest truths for me to communicate on this channel, because the truth is that it's not your situation, it's you resisting it. It's you. Like, I was in deep meditation, like every single day I meditate, but I remember I had deep meditations where I was meditating very deeply. And when I started meditating 5 years ago, what can happen is the sounds, like for example, I meditate with gongs, with sometimes gongs or just sounds, like binaural beats. I use the sounds to sometimes enhance my meditations. In fact, I use them quite a lot. And sometimes this is what people do in temples and stuff, like monks and stuff, they use gongs. Because like that sound will literally bring you to presence if you're conscious enough, if you're really present. But the thing is though, for example, why is it that one person can hear the sound of a gong or an air conditioning and get pissed off? Oh, why is the air conditioning running? Oh, why is, God, that gong sound is so annoying, right? And they fall into that like, oh, they get repulsed. And another person finds genuine peace in the air conditioning or a gong. Why? Why? Is it the sound or is it the person's reaction to the sound? Really get this right now. Similarly, is it the life situation or is it your internal reaction and pattern to the situation? Now, this is harder to accept when it comes to very challenging things like death or family or the loss of career. But not only does it apply to those things as well, it applies especially to those things. But that's the challenge. That's where you want to really step into your power and realize, am I causing suffering to myself? That blew my mind because I was meditating and on the gongs one time when I started, and this is like just a part of who I am now, but when I had this insight, I was like, oh my God, it's not the sound, it's me. It's not the external phenomena that's creating suffering, it's the person resisting it. The person, the sense of self, who you think you are, that's creating the suffering. Not what's happening, quote unquote, to you, it's happening for you. It's the resistance. And so the more that we can start to honestly be aware and really see that, oh my gosh, like just be honest with yourself, like, yeah, I'm creating these stories, I'm doing it. What's the alternative? You'll have no choice but to surrender, to accept. And that is when you'll start to find peace, regardless of what's happening. When you can start to truly embody the fact that it's not the situation, it's not the person in your life, it's you. There's nothing but you in this life. Now again, yeah, there appears to be separate entities. I know that's hard to accept for some people, like, oh, it's all your consciousness. But if you're really aware, you'll start to realize that everything in life is a reflection of you. Now again, it's not to say that sometimes, like, I'm not saying that, hey, if somebody knocks on your door and somebody is evading your boundaries, to be like, okay, I'm not saying to not create boundaries and not to tell people like, hey, if you're invading my privacy, get the hell out. In that case, the person might be inflicting their shit on you, okay? So be conscious of that. I'm speaking like very universally right now. Like I'm speaking like esoterically at the very core of your nature. It's nothing outside of you that's creating true suffering. It's you. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't create boundaries and that you don't tell people to get out of your space if they're like emotionally manipulating you. Now, of course, you can see it in a compassionate way, but don't misinterpret this to not change your life circumstance. In fact, the more that you can find peace in your circumstance, the more energy and capacity you'll have to empower yourself and change the circumstance. But we'll get to that in another video. So just keep in mind that this acceptance of peace does not mean you can't change your situation. In fact, I would say it's the opposite. The more that you can accept the current situation that you're in right now, what you are right now, what's happening for you right now, the more that you'll have the capacity and the energy and non-resistance to change your circumstance. In fact, usually when we're in resistance to what's happening, we stay stuck in that reality because we're complaining and like you're feeding it energy unconsciously. So that's a whole nother video though. That's probably something interesting that you want to see. So let me know in the comments down below if you want me to record the video on how to change your circumstances by accepting them. It's going to be a very powerful video. Let me know if you want to see that one. But that's another video for another time. I want to conclude this video by really letting you know that I know that a lot of these things in this video might be, for some people, yeah, wow, that resonates with me. I love what he's saying. For some people, it might genuinely cause a trigger within them. It's like, oh my God, like it might be hard to hear this. Whatever the case is, whoever you are and however you took this message, I want you to start to embody the fact that maybe it's not the sound of the gongs, like in my meditation, or the air conditioning that pisses you off. It's not the person. It's not the thing. I know it's hard to hear for some people, but I want you to be open to the experience that you can find peace within yourself regardless of what the situation entails in that moment. And the way that you do that is by contemplating what you truly are and truly stepping into that. This is super spiritual, this is super esoteric, but in my experience, I've found that there's been really a lot of moments in my life, just to ground this a little bit more for you, if there's any doubt, there's been a lot of moments in my life where I was really in a negative place, like health-wise. I had health issues going on, narcissistic people in my life, this, and this. But then I really just had it within me somehow to meditate in my room, and I realized, like, holy shit, it's all just my resistance. And the moment that I could find that inner peace, my external reality started to change. I started to come off in a different way. I started to have different communications. My external world overall, of course, there's subtleties in the process of the actions that I took. I did take a lot of action, but energetically, generally speaking, very, very generally speaking, my internal non-resistance started to shift my external world. And I'll say generally because that's literally what happened specifically, but generally in the sense that I had to do certain things, I had to step up and be in my masculine power. But the non-resistance to what is what gave me the capacity to be more confident in that masculine power, if I'm communicating that in a way that makes sense. So just remember that you have the power to be in a non-resistance to what is. Sometimes life is going to get hard. Look at what's happening in the world right now. But you have two options. Either you fight reality or you accept reality. I know that's not easy to hear because but think about it. What's the alternative? What the hell is the alternative? Seriously. Either you fight and resist the inevitable that is happening for you, like life is going to change. And I'm not trying to plant a belief system in your mind saying that life's gonna go shit. Life is beautiful, but sometimes challenges will just happen. Either you can fight that or accept that it is the case and find peace within yourself. And I invite you to be open that you can find the non-resistance to what is. Not that you'll always feel good. It's like, oh, Francis is saying you're just going to feel good all the time regardless of what. No. Again, don't listen to this with the premise that you're going to feel good all the time. You won't, but you can accept that you won't feel good sometimes. The key is acceptance of what is, not trying to be somewhere else that you're not right now. That's my invitation to you. My invitation to you is to accept what is, even if you don't feel good sometimes, and to accept that you won't feel good sometimes, and to use that not to be a victim, but to empower yourself and realize that you do not have to allow the external to define who you are. You might still feel thrown off sometimes, but you can stay connected to that formlessness even when you're thrown off. And then that transmutes that energy into positive energy down the line later on, but not in that moment right away maybe. It's about accepting what you feel in that moment.